Hi everybody, this is Jennifer. Welcome to my channel. I'm gonna do some recent reads for you guys. It's been a while since I've caught up on that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I didn't discuss October reading at all, and that's for a reason because my October reading was kind of sucky, but November is looking up, so let's get on with it. For all the fact that I wasn't happy with my reading, I did finish quite a few things in October, so let's get started. October actually started on a high note because I was able to finish Benti Home and Benti the Night Masquerade by Nnedi Okorafor. Benti leaves her home and the planet to go to this school in it's off-world. It's not on Earth. And she comes, and then on the way there, she's changed. And then she comes back and she gets caught up in the middle of all this feuding between a neighboring tribe of hers and these alien creatures called Medusa. And so this is the conclusion of that whole story. I really enjoyed these. I gave both of them 4 stars. Unfortunately, they were quickly overshadowed by some other stuff. Another thing I read that was part of my Shorty September was The Man Who Folded Himself by David Gerald, or Gerald. It's probably Gerald. I ended up giving this 3 stars, and it's like exactly half of a 2-star book and then half of a 4-star book, and so I ended up going with 3. There's quite a few things that are very interesting. This guy gets this time belt from his Uncle Jim, and he starts this adventure with time travel. There's several things about it that I found really cringy, which is why it got knocked down a star from 4. But there was quite a lot of interesting things. The time travel elements were really interesting, and he gets into the philosophy of the time travel that he's doing, not necessarily time travel in general, but specific to his time belt situation. And there's a lot of good stuff going on, including gambling and big old house parties with like hundreds of himself from like different timelines. So like, there was stuff in it that was really interesting, but boy, how, like, this is not a newer book. It's, let's see. It was copyrighted in 73, and it feels like a 70s book. And then some parts were just straight up cringe. And if you've read it, you probably know what parts I'm referring to. But it had its moments, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. Next up was, I finished the Great Courses audio thing I was listening to. It's not an audio book because it's a series of lectures. It's not a book at all. So maybe I shouldn't be mentioning it. Well, you know what? I can mention whatever I want because it's my channel. It's by Hans Friedrich Müller, and I really liked his delivery, and I thought it was extremely detailed, especially about Greek and Rome. It's got an entire chapter on Julius Caesar and how he affected religion in the Roman Empire and all that good stuff. Yeah, I highly recommend that. And technically I gave it 5 stars, but it's a series of lectures. It's not really a book, so. Okay, so I started to do a little bit of Victober reading also, and I started with Diary of a Nobody by George and Whedon Grossmith, and I ended up DNFing this one. It's beloved by a lot of people, but I found it to be too cringeworthy for my reading enjoyment, and I can understand why people would find it amusing. I deal with enough social awkwardness myself that seeing it in other people doesn't like provide me with any kind of reading enjoyment. So I ended up giving it up because in the end, I kind of felt it was a little bit too mean, and it was just, it was sad more than amusing for me, so I did not go any further. But I did pick up Silas Marner by George Eliot. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I did finish it. The parts with Silas Marner and the kid, those parts I really liked. The parts with the 2 brothers, I did not like so much. I found them to be really tedious and I didn't want to hear about them. So those were not my favorite parts of the book. So it ended up being more like a 3 star. After that, okay. So I did some comics reading. I read Deadly Class Volume 9. I'm not going to give any kind of real plot away, not that there was that much of it, but this takes place in a school for assassins, teenaged assassins in the 1980s, and it follows this guy Marcus and his classmates. And I'm really tiring of Marcus as a protagonist. This is the last volume that takes place in the 80s. The next one I think starts in the 90s. And my problem with Marcus is he is really freaking whiny in this. And he's moody and he's like, everybody sucks. And I'm like, yeah, you're in a school for assassins. That's kind of like, it's not the friggin' Care Bears, but he's just whiny and I can't have any sympathy with him. So he's becoming tedious as a protagonist. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. I did finish it and I'm going to read 10 because I have it and it's hot pink and it's really, I'm just going to. After that, I DNF'd Monstrous, Volume 6, The Vow. The thing about Monstrous is the art is absolutely gorgeous. The story is just unrelenting bleakness and tragedy. And I've just had enough. Even if Kippa is like my favorite comic book character ever. And she's adorable as a character, but her backstory, we get a little bit more into her backstory in this. And like at the very beginning, and I was like, oh my God, it's so tragic. Like how much more tragedy and betrayal and backstabbing are we going to get besides the whole unrelenting war? So I'm just giving up on Monstrous. I don't see there being, like, if I knew that there was like an end point, I might be able to stick with it. But as of right now, it's just like, I can't deal with it right now. So I'm putting it aside. Let's see. Oh, okay. So I got a new novella. It's a romance novella by Kylie Scott called The Rhythm Method. And it's from this Stage Dive series. So the first book in this series gets kicked off with David and Evelyn. And Evelyn goes to Las Vegas for her 21st birthday and she wakes up married to a rock star. And that's David. And they have their book. And so like the series is going along and everybody's like pairing up and having babies and stuff. And they're just pretty content with just being themselves. And then one day Evelyn has a baby that she didn't know that she did not know she was having. And I don't consider that a spoiler because it's in the setup. But yeah, that, like, I gave this 4 stars. I love Kylie Scott and I love this story, like the set of stories, but that was kind of ridiculous. Anyway, she comes up with a semi-plausible kind of like reasoning for that, but it's only semi-plausible. So the last thing I finished was something, it was a piece of nonfiction that I started in October called Still Life, The Myths and Magic of Mindful Living by Rebecca Pacheco. And I ended up giving this 3 stars. It started out very promising, but like a little bit past halfway through, I just felt like it was dragging. And I felt like it could have been a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more focused. And instead it like branches out in all these, in a couple of different directions, and that didn't really work for me, or wasn't really super applicable. So it just felt like it took me less than 2 weeks to read, but it still felt like a drag. So, okay, so that was the last thing I finished until this afternoon. I have finished my first nonfiction November TBR book, and that is From Here to Eternity by Caitlin Doughty, and she goes to different places and visits with different people in the death industry and death industry adjacent to like find out what other cultures do with their dead. So that one was really interesting, and her voice is very soothing to me. So like, I know it's probably not logical, but hearing her talk about dead bodies is soothing. So I don't know. So I am actually reading like a whole bunch of my nonfiction November picks. Like, I just decided I was just not doing very good with reading one book at a time. So I'm starting all of them. I'm almost 30% done with All Right, All Right, All Right, an oral history of Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused. We're just now to the part where they're going to start filming. And we've gone through like the Slacker thing, like very like surfacey, and getting it greenlit and casting, and the whole Matthew McConaughey casting, which got its own chapter. And I'm just loving this. If you're a fan of the movie, I would highly recommend it. I wouldn't say it's essential, because I don't think it's essential to read books about movies you like. It's fine if you just like them. But if you're interested in reading about movies that you like, this one's a really good one. It's got like so many people, not just people in the cast, but people like Richard Linklater went to school with, other directors. Like, it's just, there's a whole bunch of good stuff in there, and I'm really enjoying it. I also, this morning, I started Reveries of the Solitary Walker by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I was waiting to finish Still Life before I started this one, because that's going to be my morning reading. All Right, All Right, All Right is my afternoon and evening reading. And then I have to find a new audiobook, which is going to be a nonfiction. I'm either going to go with what I have, or I'm going to get the Richard Marx memoir that just came out earlier this year. I'll let you know later. So Reveries of the Solitary Walker is his, Jean-Jacques Rousseau's, they're like essays pretty much about the stuff that's happening with him. And this is, there's enough in the first chapter where I was like, okay, I need to find out more, because he keeps talking about his enemies and how like he's given up on humanity because humanity has given up on him. And I'm like, okay, who are these enemies and what do I need to know? And oh my goodness, that dude's life was full of drama. And apparently David Hume was stealing his mail. I don't know. Allegedly. So yeah, he's just decided to take himself away from humanity, and he's gonna think about the state of his internal affairs and write about them. So yeah, this has gotten off to a good start. His prose sometimes can be a little hard to follow. He is a fan of long sentences, but if I read it once or twice or 3 times, I can get it. But yeah, dude had lots of drama. And I kind of already started Cool Town also, but I don't think I'm gonna officially start that until after I'm finished with All Right, All Right, All Right. But who knows? I'm rogue, and apparently just reading one book at a time is not working for me. So I'm just gonna read them all and see what happens. All right, that is my reading update for now. I'm hoping by next week I'll have something else for you. It's taking a lot of research and writing down stuff, so it's taking a bit, but I will have something new for you next weekend. Please let me know if you are reading anything interesting for Nonfiction November. I'd be happy to hear about it in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.